Breakfast was supposed to be a quiet moment, a routine we'd built over the years. Rachel at the counter scrolling through her phone, me nursing my coffee, both of us pretending everything was fine. That morning, however, she shattered the illusion with one simple sentence. "I just think we should wait a few more years before trying for a baby." At first, I didn't register the words. I blinked, my grip tightening around my coffee mug, the warmth seeping into my palm, grounding me in the present. Wait, we'd already been trying. 2 years. 2 years of disappointment, of hoping, of watching her eyes fill with false sympathy every time another pregnancy test read negative. I placed my mug down a little too hard. The sound clanked through the kitchen. I wanted to keep my voice steady, calm, but something in me snapped. "Don't you dare bring that up right now." Rachel barely glanced at me. Her expression remained neutral, as if she hadn't just pulled the floor out from under me. "I just think it would be smart to wait. We've been under a lot of stress, and maybe this just isn't the right time." Stress. Right. That's what she thought this was. She leaned against the counter, her nails tapping against her phone screen like she was already tuning me out. "We've been trying," I said, my voice low, measured. A stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. "For 2 years. Her lips pressed together in something that looked like regret, but felt like dismissal. "I know, Daniel, but maybe it's time to take a step back. Focus on other things." Something in my chest twisted painfully. Take a step back? I had spent every waking moment trying to fix myself, because I had assumed it was me. Every failure, every single heartbreaking moment when a test came back negative, I had internalized as my own shortcoming. I had poured money into fertility specialists, tracked my sperm count like a madman, changed my diet, taken vitamins, exercised. Anything to fix whatever the hell was wrong with me. And she wanted to wait? Now? After all of that? I pushed my plate away, my appetite gone. "What are you really saying?" My voice had an edge, one that even I barely recognized. Rachel sighed. "Daniel, please don't make this into an argument. I'm just saying that maybe we should wait and see where life takes us." Wait and see. Wait for what? Had she not seen what this had done to me? I had spent countless nights staring at the ceiling while she slept peacefully beside me, my mind spiraling into dark places, wondering if I was broken. I had sat in doctors' offices alone, listening to medical professionals tell me that stress could be a factor, that maybe I needed to relax, as if that was possible when every failed attempt made me feel like less of a man. And through all of it, she had been so supportive. She had held me when I broke down, told me we'd figure it out together. She had even cried with me, whispered words of encouragement, promised me that our time would come. But now she wanted to wait? A sick feeling crept into my stomach, twisting and coiling until it settled into something cold. I felt like I was missing a piece of the puzzle. Something wasn't adding up. What changed? I asked carefully. Rachel shrugged. "Nothing changed, Daniel. I just think maybe we should focus on other things. Maybe travel a little. Enjoy life before we take that next step." Enjoy life? I could barely process the words. What life had we been living for the past 2 years? Rachel was talking as if this was some casual decision we were making together, as if she hadn't watched me fall apart month after month, appointment after appointment. I couldn't look at her anymore. My fingers curled into fists beneath the table. "Right?" I said finally, standing up. "I need some air." I grabbed my keys and walked out before I said something I couldn't take back. The drive was a blur. I wasn't even sure where I was going. Just that I needed to get out, to get away from her and that indifferent tone in her voice. Eventually, I pulled into a parking lot near a coffee shop, sitting in silence with my hands gripping the steering wheel. My head was spinning. Was she just tired of trying? That had to be it, right? 2 years of disappointment would weigh on anyone. Maybe she really did just want to take a break. But something didn't feel right. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my emails, my fingers moving on autopilot. There were reminders for upcoming fertility appointments, payment confirmations for the specialists, receipts for vitamins and supplements. All of it. Things I had done, paid for, and agonized over. Rachel hadn't once expressed doubt before now. She had always been the one reassuring me, telling me it wasn't my fault. So why did it suddenly feel like she was distancing herself? I thought back to the night she had held me after yet another negative test, her fingers running through my hair, whispering, "It'll happen for us, I promise." Had she been lying? Had she known something all along? I stared at the phone screen, my vision blurring slightly. Something in my gut told me I needed to find out what. I returned home later that afternoon, but Rachel barely acknowledged my absence. She was curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. No tension, no guilt, no concern about the argument we'd had that morning. It only made my unease grow. I wanted to press her for answers, demand to know why she suddenly wanted to stop trying for a baby after everything we'd been through. But I bit my tongue. If I confronted her now, she'd brush it off, maybe call me paranoid. Instead, I decided to distract myself. Rachel had been nagging me to clean out the attic for months. I figured I might as well do something productive, keep my hands busy while my mind ran in circles. I grabbed a few trash bags and climbed up the rickety wooden ladder, coughing as I stepped into the dust-filled space. The attic smelled like old paper and forgotten memories, packed tight with boxes we hadn't touched in years. I started with the obvious junk: old clothes, broken lamps, Christmas decorations that hadn't seen the light of day in a decade. But then, as I reached for another box, something caught my eye. A dusty container, wedged in the corner, labeled Tax Docs 2022. Normally, I would have ignored it, but something about it felt off. Rachel handled most of our paperwork, but I had never seen her put anything in the attic before. Tax documents weren't something you just shoved into storage. Curious, I knelt down and pried open the lid. Inside were stacks of old bills, some receipts, and folders stuffed with papers. I shuffled through them mindlessly until my fingers brushed against something strange. A thick manila folder buried beneath the rest. It was labeled with nothing but Rachel's name. I pulled it out, flipped it open, and felt the air leave my lungs. Medical procedure confirmation. Hysterectomy. The date: 7 months before our wedding. My hands started trembling as I scanned the page. I reread it once, then twice. No, this had to be a mistake. I flipped to the next page, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear myself breathe. The details were clear. A full hysterectomy. Irreversible. Performed at a hospital right here in Austin. Rachel had known. She had known for years. She had let me believe we could have children, had watched me blame myself, suffer, cry in her arms, while this sat hidden in the attic. I dropped the folder like it had burned me. For 2 years, I had obsessed over my fertility, convinced that the problem was me. I had driven myself insane, seen doctors, changed my diet, spent thousands of dollars on tests and supplements. And she knew. She let me think I was broken. I sat back, staring at the papers in stunned silence. It wasn't just a lie. It was deliberate. The weight of the deception pressed down on me like a crushing force. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt. I had carried that burden alone, because she let me. And for what? Why had she even married me if she had already decided to take away our chance at a family? Had she ever even wanted kids? The thought made my stomach turn. I forced myself to take deep breaths, my mind racing. Confronting her immediately would be a mistake. I knew Rachel. She was smart, quick on her feet. She'd twist this around, make me doubt myself. No, I needed to be smarter. I needed to plan. Carefully, I smoothed out the papers, placed them back exactly as I had found them, and closed the box. Then, I climbed down from the attic, walked into the kitchen, and made myself a cup of tea, hands still shaking, heart still hammering in my chest. Rachel had no idea what was coming, but she was about to learn exactly what her deception would cost her. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my cup of tea as if it held all the answers. My hands still trembled, my breath still came too fast, but I forced myself to think. Rushing into confrontation would be a mistake. Rachel had kept this secret for years. If I accused her outright, she would find a way to manipulate the situation. She might cry, turn it around on me, maybe even make me feel guilty for snooping through her things. No, I needed proof. I needed a plan. The first step was gathering more information. I grabbed my laptop and began searching through our medical insurance portal. I had never looked too deeply into Rachel's records before. Why would I? But now, I clicked through every entry, scanning for any sign of her hysterectomy. And there it was. August 3rd, 2021. A claim filed under her name. The procedure performed at Austin General Hospital. It was real. I clenched my fists. She had done it before we even got married. Or was this just another carefully placed move in whatever game she had been playing? I nodded. That sounds nice. Inside, I was already planning my next step. I sat in my office late that night, the glow of my laptop screen casting sharp shadows on the walls. Rachel was already asleep, breathing evenly beside me as if nothing had changed, as if she hadn't spent the last 2 years watching me break apart, knowing full well I was chasing a dream that had been impossible from the start. I wanted to wake her up, shove the hysterectomy papers in her face, demand an explanation, but I already knew she would lie. Instead, I took a deep breath, rolled my shoulders, and kept digging. Jordan's lawyer, Monica Carter, had called me back earlier that evening. I had kept my voice steady, controlled, when I told her what I had found. "You have enough to start building a case," she had said, her voice sharp and confident. "But we need to go deeper. A secret like this usually has layers." I took her words seriously. So, I went through everything. I started with our bank accounts. Rachel handled most of our finances, not because I couldn't, but because I had trusted her. That trust had kept me blind. Now, I saw everything. There were transactions I didn't recognize, money being moved between different accounts, subtle shifts in funds that wouldn't normally raise suspicion. But as I went back further, the pattern became clear. Rachel had been shifting small amounts of money for over a year. At first, it seemed random. $1,000 here, $500 there, deposits and withdrawals scattered across multiple accounts. But as I pieced them together, my stomach turned. She had been building something separate. I dug deeper, scanning through our credit card statements, our joint savings, investment accounts. That's when I saw it. A real estate purchase. Rachel had bought a property, and I had no idea. I clicked on the details, my breath coming in short bursts. The property wasn't in both of our names, just hers. Why? We had talked about buying a house together eventually, maybe in a better school district for the future, kids I now knew we would never have. But she had done this alone, secretly. That's when I made my next call. Jordan picked up after 2 rings. "Did you find something?" His voice was already alert, no trace of the usual casual tone. "She bought property," I said, rubbing my temples, "with our money, and she hid it from me." There was a long pause. "That's bad. It gets worse. The purchase happened months ago, but she's still moving money around." Jordan let out a low whistle. "She's setting up for something, man." I already knew what he meant. Divorce. Rachel hadn't just lied about her medical history. She had been preparing to leave me, and I was supposed to be clueless, walking right into her plan like a blindfolded fool. Not anymore. "I need to know everything," I said. "Can your guy dig into this?" "Already on it," Jordan said without hesitation. "But if she's been planning this for a while, there might be more than just a hidden property." I clenched my jaw. Find out. By the next morning, I had barely slept. But when Rachel woke up and stretched beside me, smiling sleepily, I played my part. "Morning," she murmured, pressing a kiss to my jaw. I smiled. "Morning. You were up late." "Just work stuff," I lied easily. She didn't push. She just hummed, slid out of bed, and went about her morning routine, completely unaware that her perfect web of lies was unraveling. That afternoon, Jordan called back. "Are you sitting down?" I gripped the armrest of my office chair. "What did you find?" "She's been meeting with a lawyer," Jordan said. "A divorce attorney. Christopher Tate. Big name in Houston." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Rachel wasn't just hiding money. She was preparing to get rid of me. My pulse pounded in my ears. "How long?" "At least 6 months," Jordan said. "She's had multiple meetings with him. All in secret." My fingers curled into a fist. 2 years. 2 years of lying. She had been preparing her escape while I was blaming myself for something she had already taken away. I thought that was the worst of it. But then Jordan added, "There's more." I almost didn't want to hear it.
What?
There's another name tied to those hidden accounts. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Who? A guy named Eric Foster. The name meant nothing to me. Who the hell is he? A real estate broker. Jordan hesitated. And Rachel's been meeting with him too. Frequently. A slow, creeping chill settled into my bones. It wasn't just the money. It wasn't just the hysterectomy. Rachel had been planning a life without me. A future that I wasn't a part of. And this Eric Foster? I didn't know what he was to her yet. But I was going to find out. That night, I watched Rachel like a man studying a dangerous animal. She laughed at a sitcom on TV. She curled up on the couch, scrolling on her phone, completely at ease. I thought about the property in her name, the lawyer meetings, the hidden accounts. Eric Foster. She had built a world behind my back. But she didn't know I had seen behind the curtain. I took a slow sip of my drink, eyes never leaving her. She thought she was ahead. She had no idea how wrong she was. By the time Rachel left for work the next morning, I had a full-scale plan in motion. She thought she was careful, that she had covered her tracks well, but she had underestimated me. I waited until her car disappeared down the street before I moved. I grabbed my phone, my laptop, and a notepad filled with every discovery I'd made in the last few days. Every lie, every betrayal, every calculated move she had made against me. And now, it was my turn to make one against her. The first thing Monica Carter, my divorce attorney, told me was simple: cut off her access to your personal finances. Immediately. Rachel had been slowly shifting money into secret accounts for over a year. She was preparing for an escape where she walked away with everything and left me with nothing. I wasn't about to let that happen. I drove straight to the bank. When I walked up to the counter, I kept my voice even, polite. I'd like to open a new checking account under my name only. The teller smiled. Of course. Are you looking to move money from an existing account? Yes, but I want to do it in small increments, over the next few days. Nothing large enough to raise a red flag. She nodded and tapped at her keyboard, completely unaware that she was helping me outmaneuver my wife. By the time I left the bank, I had a new account, a new debit card, and a financial lifeline that Rachel couldn't touch. One step ahead. My next stop was the hospital. The records of Rachel's hysterectomy were already in my possession, but Monica had made it clear. I needed official documentation straight from the source. Anything that can be used against her in court, she had said. So, I walked into the records department at Austin General Hospital, filled out the necessary paperwork, and waited. The receptionist eventually handed me an envelope. Sealed. Official. Unquestionable. Rachel couldn't deny this. I placed it in my bag, a strange sense of satisfaction settling over me. She had spent 2 years letting me believe I was the problem. Now, the truth was in my hands. I made another call to Jordan. You still have that contact in real estate? I asked. Yeah, why? I need to know everything about the property Rachel bought. There was a brief pause. Then Jordan said, You're really going all in on this, huh? She was planning to take everything from me, I said flatly. I'm just getting ahead of her. Jordan didn't argue. Give me a few hours. When he called back that evening, the information made my blood run cold. The property isn't just in her name, he said. It's in someone else's name too. I felt my fingers tighten around the phone. Who? Eric Foster. Rachel's real estate broker. The man she had been meeting with for months. It was all clicking into place now. Rachel hadn't just been hiding money. She had been building a life with someone else. And she had expected me to stay blind. I played my part well that night. When Rachel came home, I greeted her like nothing had changed. She smiled at me. How was your day? Uneventful, I said, watching her closely. She moved around the kitchen, humming softly, fixing herself a cup of tea. So at ease, so unaware. She had spent so long deceiving me that she probably thought she was invincible. I almost laughed at the irony. She thought she was ahead, but I was already laying the groundwork to destroy her entire plan. I've been thinking, I said, keeping my tone casual. She glanced up. About. Maybe you're right, I said. Maybe we should wait a few more years before trying for a baby. The relief on her face was instant. And that's when I knew. She had never wanted kids. She She had only played along to keep me distracted while she worked on her real goal, leaving me. I kept my face neutral, nodding as she went on about how we should travel, how we should enjoy life before we made such a big decision. Meanwhile, I was already plotting my next move. The next day, I had my first official meeting with Monica Carter. She sat across from me, flipping through the thick folder I had put together. "This is enough to bury her in court," she said finally, looking up. "The hidden accounts, the hysterectomy deception, the secret property purchase. You could go for financial fraud and marital deception." I exhaled. Good. Monica tapped her pen against the desk. "But I'd advise against confronting her just yet. If she knows you're onto her, she'll start covering her tracks." "I figured," I said. She leaned forward. "Instead, let her believe she's winning. Let her feel safe. Then, when everything is in place, you drop the hammer." I grinned. That was exactly what I had planned. Rachel was in the shower when I grabbed her phone. She always left it on the nightstand, unlocked. Too trusting. I scrolled through her recent calls. Eric Foster's name was there. Multiple times. And then, at the bottom of the list, Christopher Tate, her divorce lawyer. She had been planning this for so long. I placed her phone back, my hands surprisingly steady. I had the proof. I had the leverage. Now it was just a matter of timing. The next few days were a waiting game. I continued playing the perfect husband. I let Rachel think she had successfully manipulated me into accepting her "wait a few years" excuse. I let her continue shifting money, thinking she was doing it undetected. I let her text and call Eric, completely oblivious to the fact that I now knew everything. And then, one morning, as she sipped her coffee and smiled at me across the table, I leaned forward and said, "I was thinking of switching banks. Maybe we should look into new savings options." She froze, just for a second. Then she recovered. "Oh? Why?" I shrugged. "Just a thought." She sipped her coffee again, acting normal, but I saw it. The flicker of panic in her eyes. And that was when I knew. She was starting to realize something was wrong. She could feel it. But she had no idea that by the time she figured it out, it would already be too late. Sunday morning arrived, bringing with it a strange, unnatural calm. The kind of stillness before a storm. I sat at the kitchen table, fingers drumming lightly against the wood, waiting for her. Rachel had slept in, as she often did on weekends. I had been up for hours, sipping coffee, going over the details in my head one last time. Everything was in place. My finances were secured. My evidence was airtight. The legal team was prepped. She had no escape. And now? Now, it was time to watch her world shatter. She came downstairs around 9, wrapped in a loose robe, her hair messy from sleep. She stretched as she entered the kitchen, offering me a lazy smile. "Morning," she said, heading straight for the coffee machine. I watched her, expression unreadable. She had no idea what was coming. "Morning," I responded, my tone carefully neutral. Rachel poured her coffee, added a splash of cream. Always the same way. She leaned against the counter, eyes scanning her phone. I let the silence stretch. Then, slowly, deliberately, I placed the manila folder onto the table in front of me. I found something interesting in the attic. Her head snapped up. That was the first crack. She didn't move for a moment, her fingers tightening around her mug. I could see it, the slight tension in her shoulders, the hesitation before she spoke. "Oh," she said, forcing casualness into her voice. "What did you find?" I slid the folder forward, tapping it lightly. "Go ahead. Open it." She didn't move right away. Her eyes flicked from the folder to me, calculating. Then, with slow, careful movements, she set her mug down and stepped forward. She flipped the folder open. And then I watched the color drain from her face. Her fingers trembled slightly as she skimmed the document, the official confirmation of her hysterectomy. Her signature at the bottom. The date, 7 months before our wedding. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. "Want to explain that?" Her lips parted slightly. I could see the gears turning in her mind, scrambling for an excuse, a way out. She found none. "Daniel," she finally whispered, her voice tight. You what?" I cut in, my tone ice cold. You were going to tell me? After how many more fertility treatments? After how many more nights of me crying in your arms, thinking I was the problem? She flinched. Good. Let her feel even an ounce of what I had felt. She swallowed hard. I didn't want to hurt you. I laughed. A short, sharp sound that made her wince. You didn't want to hurt me? I repeated. Rachel, you let me believe I was broken. You let me pour my time, my energy, my money into something you knew was never going to happen. Her breathing quickened. I could see her mind working, reaching for a defense, something to soften the impact. She found nothing. So she changed tactics. Daniel, please, let's talk about this. Oh, we'll talk, I interrupted. But not just about this. I reached into my bag and pulled out another folder. This one, financial statements, property deeds, transactions linked to her hidden accounts. And at the very top, a document listing the co-owner of the property she had secretly purchased, Eric Foster. Rachel's face turned from pale to ashen. Oh, I said, mocking understanding. You weren't going to tell me about this either, were you? She stared at the papers like they might disappear if she just blinked hard enough. Daniel, I can explain. No? I slammed my palm against the table, making her jump. You don't get to explain. You don't get to spin some sob story about how you were scared or confused or trying to protect me. I leaned in, my voice dropping to a whisper. You did this. You planned this. You manipulated me for years. Her lower lip trembled. The act. I knew it now. I could see through it. Rachel wasn't sorry. She was caught. She exhaled shakily, pressing her palms against the table. Daniel, please, she said, her voice wavering. This doesn't have to end like this. I tilted my head. No? How did you plan for it to end? She hesitated. Too long. I chuckled, shaking my head. Let me guess. You were going to slowly bleed our accounts dry. Move everything over to yours. Then one day, you'd serve me divorce papers and walk away with everything. Her silence was confirmation. Yeah, I murmured. That's what I thought. I stood up, grabbing my jacket. She blinked. Where are you going? To live my life, I said simply. Without you. She took a shaky step toward me. Daniel, wait. I held up a hand. Check your email, I said. Our lawyers can handle the rest. My phone buzzed before I even reached the front door. Rachel's expression twisted as she glanced at her own phone screen, reading the legal notice. Her accounts? Frozen. Her secret property? Under investigation. The web she had so carefully spun? Shredded to pieces. She looked up at me, panic finally setting in. You can't do this to me, she choked out. I met her gaze. Actually, Rachel? I said, my voice eerily calm. I just did. I turned, opened the door, and walked out. As I stepped outside, I inhaled deeply, the crisp morning air filling my lungs. For the first time in years, I felt free. I didn't look back as I walked out the door. Not once. Not when Rachel gasped. Not when she scrambled after me, her voice trembling with desperation. Not when she called my name, her footsteps quickening on the hardwood floors as she realized just how real this was. I stepped into the crisp morning air, inhaling deeply. The sky was clear, the sun just beginning to warm the pavement, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could actually breathe. Behind me, Rachel's world was crumbling. Good. I had spent 2 years being the one who suffered, who blamed himself, who carried all the weight of our infertility struggles on his shoulders. Now, it was her turn. But I wasn't done yet. No, I had planned every last detail of her downfall, and I wasn't about to leave any loose ends. I slid into my car, turned the key, and let the engine hum to life as Rachel pounded on the passenger window. Daniel, please, she pleaded. Her face twisted in something between shock and horror. We can talk about this. I rolled down the window just enough to meet her gaze. Calm, collected, unmoved. Check your email, Rachel, I said simply. Our lawyers will handle everything from now on. Her eyes went wide. Lawyers? There it was. She had expected a fight, a dramatic confrontation, maybe even a drawn-out argument where she could somehow regain control. But that wasn't how this was going to go. Rachel had spent 2 years playing games with me. She had played the role of the caring wife, the supportive partner, all while building a separate future behind my back. Now she was realizing I had been playing her, too. I didn't wait for her response. I rolled up the window and pulled out of the driveway, leaving her standing there, clutching at the remnants of the life she had tried to steal from me. She had no idea what was coming next. By the time I reached Monica Carter's office, the first shots had already been fired. My lawyer greeted me with a sharp nod. "She's panicking." I smirked. "Already?" "She's called our office twice. Left voicemails. Begging for a meeting with you before anything gets too messy." Monica rolled her eyes, flipping through a file. "She knows she's losing control." "Good. Let her squirm." I leaned back in my chair. "And the financial freeze?" "Already in place. She can't touch a dime from your accounts." I nodded, satisfaction settling in my chest. Rachel had spent months, maybe years, siphoning money into secret accounts, preparing to leave me on her own terms. But she had gotten too comfortable. She had underestimated me. And now she had nothing. Rachel didn't wait long before calling me directly. My phone buzzed as I left Monica's office, her name flashing across the screen. I let it ring. Twice. 3 times. Then, just as it was about to go to voicemail, I answered. "Rachel." My voice was flat, detached. There was silence on the other end. A shaky inhale. Then, "Daniel, please, don't do this." I almost laughed. "Don't do what?" "Don't hold you accountable for lying to me for 2 years?" "I made a mistake," she rushed out. "I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you." I clenched my jaw. "You had 2 years to tell me, Rachel. 2 years where I blamed myself, where I tore myself apart thinking I was the problem." She sniffled. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." Another lie. I kept my voice cold. "Is that what you told Eric?" Silence. Then a sharp, guttural exhale. "Bingo. I know everything, Rachel. The hidden accounts. The property. The lawyer in Houston. You weren't just keeping secrets. You were building an escape plan." "I wasn't. Save it." I cut her off before she could spin another excuse. "You were planning to leave me. You were bleeding our finances dry and getting ready to walk away with everything." Her breath hitched. She knew I was right. She knew there was nothing left to say. So, instead, she went for desperation. "We can fix this," she whispered. I actually laughed. "Rachel, I don't want to fix this." I heard her breath catch again, like she had truly, finally, understood that this was real. "You should start packing," I said simply. "The house is under financial review, and the lawyer will be serving you divorce papers soon." "Daniel," I ended the call. Rachel's next move was predictable. She tried to reach out to our mutual friends, probably hoping for some sympathy, some support. But Monica had advised me well. I had already told everyone about what she had done. She had no allies. Then, she tried to fight the financial freeze. That failed too. Within a week, her bank accounts were locked. Within 2 weeks, her hidden property was under investigation. And by the end of the month, Rachel was out of the house, her belongings in boxes, her future in ruins. She came to see me one last time, just before our court date. I was sitting at a coffee shop, going over paperwork, when she walked in. She looked different, tired, worn out, defeated. "Daniel," she said softly, sitting down across from me. I didn't bother greeting her. I simply stared, waiting. She swallowed, playing with the sleeve of her jacket. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I tilted my head. "For what?" She hesitated, because she didn't know where to begin. Lying to me about the hysterectomy? Letting me believe I was broken? Stealing from me? Planning to leave me for someone else? In the end, she settled on, "For everything." I set my pen down, exhaling. "You're only sorry because you lost." She flinched, and I knew it was true. She had been caught, exposed, beaten at her own game. Now, she had to live with it. I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "You destroyed everything. And for what?" Rachel opened her mouth, then closed it. She had no answer. She had spent so much time plotting, scheming, manipulating. But in the end, she had played herself. I picked up my pen again, flipping the page of my documents. "Goodbye, Rachel." She lingered for a moment, then finally stood. As she walked away, I felt no sadness, no regret, just relief. And when I signed the divorce papers that afternoon, I realized I had already won. The divorce was finalized on a crisp morning, exactly 3 months after Rachel's deception had come to light. 3 months of legal battles, frozen accounts, financial reviews, and brutal court hearings. 3 months of watching Rachel struggle to keep her composure while her carefully built web of lies unraveled thread by thread. And now it was over. My signature on the final document felt like a release, as if the weight I had carried for 2 years had been lifted from my shoulders. No more deception. No more guilt. No more Rachel. I stepped out of the courthouse, inhaling deeply. The air felt cleaner, fresher, different. I was free. But freedom wasn't just about leaving Rachel behind. It was about reclaiming myself. For the first time in a long time, I was going to live for me. I spent the first few days after the divorce adjusting to my new life. The house we had once shared was now legally mine, though I had every intention of selling it. Too many memories. Too many ghosts. I went through my home, methodically removing every trace of Rachel. Her clothes? Donated. Her books? Packed in boxes and left in storage, untouched. The framed wedding photos that once sat on the fireplace mantel? Gone. With each item I removed, I felt lighter. The biggest moment came when I finally cleaned out the attic. I climbed the ladder with purpose, stepping into the dusty space that had started this whole thing. The manila folder with her hysterectomy paperwork was still there, right where I had found it. The proof that had destroyed our marriage. I stared at it for a long moment. Then, without hesitation, I tossed it into the trash bag. It was over. Rachel was no longer my problem. I moved into a new apartment a week later, a smaller, simpler place, free from any reminders of my old life. There were no shared closets, no tainted memories woven into the walls. Just me, an empty space, and a chance to start over. The silence of living alone took some getting used to. For 2 years, I had existed in a marriage filled with empty conversations and hidden betrayals. Now, there was no one to lie to me, no one to manipulate me, and oddly enough, I liked it. I spent my evenings doing things I had once set aside for Rachel's sake. Reading books I never had time for, cooking meals I actually enjoyed, going on late-night runs just because I could. I was rediscovering who I was before her, and it felt damn good. It was nearly 2 months later when I ran into Rachel again. I was at a cafe downtown, going over some work on my laptop, when I heard a familiar voice order a coffee. "Rachel." I glanced up, more curious than anything. She looked different, thinner, more exhausted. Her hair, always meticulously styled, was now tied up in a loose ponytail. There were faint shadows under her eyes, as if she hadn't been sleeping well. I wondered if she had finally realized what she had lost. She turned, and for a moment, our eyes met. Her breath hitched. She hadn't expected to see me. She hesitated, then, to my surprise, walked toward me. "Daniel," she said softly, standing by my table. I set my coffee down, meeting her gaze with calm indifference. "Rachel." She shifted on her feet. "You look good." "I feel good." But I didn't say that. Instead, I just raised an eyebrow. "Something you need?" She hesitated, biting her lip. I just wanted to see how you were doing." I let out a small chuckle. "Now you care?" She winced. "I deserve that." She did. But I wasn't going to waste energy hating her. I had already won. Rachel exhaled. I wanted to say I'm sorry." I studied her carefully. Was she really sorry? Or was she just mourning the life she had planned to build off my back? It didn't matter. I wasn't interested in apologies. I took a sip of my coffee. "I hope you find whatever it is you were looking for." She blinked, as if she had expected me to be cruel, to lash out. But I didn't need to. I had moved on. And Rachel? Rachel had to live with the consequences of her actions. I was free. She was not. After a moment, she nodded and walked away. I watched her leave, feeling nothing but peace. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. The past no longer had its grip on me. Rachel's lies, her betrayals, the weight of blaming myself for something that was never my fault. It was all behind me now. For the first time in years, I was in control of my own life. I wasn't broken. I wasn't lost. I was just me. And that was enough.